we're going to go straight into it anyway.
So, close as you can.
It's Sade, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Like the singer.
Yeah, like the singer Sade.
Smooth operator.
Oh my God, we have to pay royalties for that. So stop straight away.
That's enough. That's half of a second.
Yeah. So actually, our guest here has come straight from choir practice, so your voice should be nicely warmed up.
I'm a bit tired.
You're a bit tired. Yeah, no, it's pretty full on, isn't it? Like doing the whole day work and then choir practice and coming on a podcast afterwards.
Yep.
What are you doing after that?
Bed, hopefully. Hopefully there's a bed waiting for me somewhere.
And I said the last thing to say, just watch out for touching the table, yeah? You can lean on it. You lean on it, put an elbow up.
Lean on me.
Oh my God, hang on. Sangita, let's not get people from choir practice again. Because she's got the music.
We are in City Sound.
We are in City Sound. Hang on, it sounds like you want to do the intro.
No.
Hello. This is the I Creative podcast, talking about creativity, meeting amazing creative people from Essex, and we are here from City Sound Studio, which is in Chelmsford, Radio City, birthplace of radio. What perfect place for a podcast, right?
Amazing.
And we are finding all about creative people. I'm here with Sangita.
He is, yes.
Yeah, you can say hello.
Hello.
Hello. Where is that? You get complacent.
Hello.
This is the second podcast we're recording tonight, and Sangita starts getting complacent about saying hello and stuff.
Totally forgot.
You've run out of energy, haven't you?
I said hello in the car, that's why. Hello.
We're going to get you hyped up again. And we've got an amazing guest here. We've got Sade.
Hello.
Oh, it is you I'm looking for. Sade, are you creative?
Yes, I am.
No, that wasn't copyright.
No, that wasn't copyright.
Our own version.
We're just making up.
Original.
We're just jamming here. What do you do?
I when I'm not mucking about, I'm a primary school teacher by profession, and then I went into writing children's stories, which made me even more childish.
Oh, so you're a children's author at the moment?
Yes.
This is amazing. I heard that your children's book was a top 50 book in America?
Yeah. I don't get recognised here in England, but hey, I seem to be.
So how has Sade gone from, teaching in Chelmsford to being like a top 50 book in America?
Well, it's the other way around, actually. My book became famous before I became famous. Actually, I'm not famous. So how did it start? It was a long journey. I had been teaching in London for 12 years, and obviously I'd had 3 Ofsteds by then. And by the 4th one, hubby said, "You need a break." And, either one of us is gonna.
These are Ofsted inspections where you got a bit loads of work in, loads of effort getting ready.
Yeah.
And they're checking how your kids are doing, make sure they know all the words.
Certainly.
And you're like, I'm going to make a book so I know all the words.
I wish it were that easy. Because when he said, let's take a break, let's leave, let's go abroad, let's find you some other work to do, I cried my eyes out. Went to some friends and said, hey, look at what this guy said. And everyone said, well, he told you before you got married that you were going to travel.
Yeah.
I thought, oh gosh, okay, he did. The plan really was to go abroad for 2 years, and then I went to live in the northern part of Nigeria. So when I was young, I was born here, and then my parents took us to Nigeria. By the time I finally came back to England, I had both my English heritage, in which I had been raised from 4 months old to age 6, within a white family, and then having to go straight into culture and Nigerian, And so when I became a teacher here in England, and we went to live, my husband then said, let's go to Nigeria specifically. We chose to go to a part that we had never lived in before. So I had spent part of my younger days in the southern part of Nigeria, which is the Yoruba tribe. But we chose to go and live in the northern part. So south, north, mostly Christians in the south, mostly Muslims in the north. And, I had no job. I just had a baby. And I kind of thought, what can I do that is more like what I have been doing here in England. I ended up with a reading consultant job that took me into schools, and these are not schools where everyone's nicely dressed, hair's combed, they've got their school bags. These were schools in which children were going into class with no bags, no shoes, a very rural lifestyle.
And what does a reading consultant do in that sort of space?
Exactly. Interestingly, they had loads of books donated, loads of books from countries like ours that had been donated to the schools and into the libraries. But they were sealed up, and, you would wonder why. Obviously, the teachers, the management realized that these books were not representing the children. So there were books like Goldilocks and the Three Bears, Three Little Pigs, Three Billy Goat Graphs, and books where the children could not see themselves.
Yeah. So these are books like all about white kids and with English subject matters.
Exactly. And considering this, this in the northern part, and a lot of them don't eat pork. So there were reasons why these books were sealed away.
Yeah.
And where...
Well, the Three Little Pigs we're talking about here, aren't
yes.
we?
Yes.
Yeah. That wolf was not Muslim, was he?
He wasn't. Obviously not.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
Sagita, you're allowed to laugh. Sagita's there just like covering her mouth laughing.
I'm on a serious mode, actually.
It's really important. So you saw this underrepresentation of...
Straight away, it hit me in the face. And considering that I had been taken to Nigeria around about this same age, going into year one and all that, I didn't realize as a child that was the experience that I had. I mean, the closest thing that I had to reading when I was young was the Queen Primer monochrome.
Sorry, what is this? What is this?
So it goes, the first page goes like this. This is a cat. The cat sat on the mat. Okay. The cat sat on the mat with the rat. That's all in black and white. Yeah. That was the closest to what I had when I went to live in Nigeria. But, I was shocked that was still the situation. And it absolutely broke my heart. So I went back to whoever had sent me to do the field work and said, this is pathetic in this day and age. I mean, this is the, 21st century. So give me some money. I'll train the teachers. I'll put books in the schools. We have reading corners and let's see what let's see what difference that can make. So I was given the money. And then the problem began when we started to look for books across the country. I could not find more than 20 individual picture books across the land.
In the whole of Nigeria?
Yes. And this was for, very specifically, these were picture books.
Yeah.
So there were some books that were like black and white and they had pictures, sketches and all that. And those ones that existed were quite expensive because obviously if not many people are buying your book, the price.
Short run books is like niche, right?
Exactly. So I kind of thought, right, what can I do with what I have? I had a training program that I was running with the teachers. There were about 80 schools altogether and about 200 teachers that came spent 5 days with me. In 3 different regions. So I think altogether probably close to 200 teachers. Did the training, and then on the final day I thought, well, I've put so much into these people. I've furnished them with picture books, the picture books that I could find. I got some from Ghana, I got some from Sierra Leone. I furnished them with reading corners. I went in, did the monitoring, read to the children, taught the teachers how to use the reading books, not textbooks. And then I thought, what else can I leave them with? What else? So I spent the night writing a script, which is now called the Fun ABC here in England, and a visit to Grandad in the USA that is being recognized, unlike here in England.
So you wrote this when you were in Nigeria?
I did.
Yeah.
I did.
For publishing in Nigeria?
Yes. So wrote the script overnight.
You make it sound easy.
Exactly. I think it was a passion. I just wanted to leave something with them. So when I wrote a fun ABC, it just had things that were local. So lanterns and mosquitoes and, all the different things that the children can see within their environment. Lo and behold, I left it at home. So the teachers said bye-bye to the teachers, but I hadn't given them the script that I wanted to share with them to say, hey, you can do this. You don't need to wait for a big publisher. You can create your own rhythms, your own rhymes. You can, there's any teacher can make up stories. Yeah. But I left that script behind, and that broke my heart. I think for about 2-3 days, I kind of wondered why on earth I'd do such a stupid thing. Forgetfulness is not. Sometimes you have to forgive yourself, but hey, I didn't. Exactly 2 weeks after that, I went for an autism conference, and he sat next to me, and asked me what I did. Very tall, white, Caucasian medical doctor. But obviously I did flick my fingers. I had a ring on.
Oh yeah, you let him know. You let him know. I like it. Yeah, just subtly.
And he said, "What do you do?" I said, "I'm a teacher trainer," and I don't know where that thought came from. Tell him you'd written a script. I'm thinking, okay, but I just written a script. I said, "Oh, interesting. I have a friend who has just set up a publishing company, and I think he might like you."
The universe answered. This is amazing. Serendipity.
And I thought, okay, we'll give it a try. So I brushed it up a bit, got in touch with this number that he'd given me. And the lady, the wife of, said, "I have always wanted to publish an ABC book."
Wow.
And this looks perfect.
Wow.
That is...
that you just can't write about it, can you?
No.
I love this organic journey though, because you spotted this need anyway for your role, and you made it, and you found a creative solution to it. But it's just, you've got to put yourself out there and go to places and meet people, because you never know who you're going to meet, and you meet that one person that was looking for the ABC.
It initially felt like this can't be real, and I didn't. At that point, I wasn't thinking authorship, not at all. I just kept saying I'd written a script. I didn't even call it manuscript. And so within 6 months, we'd signed a contract. The problem started when we wanted to find an illustrator that could tell the story in the eyes that my publisher had believed that she could connect with.
Yeah, what were those eyes? What were they looking for?
They were looking for someone who could bring in the context and then weave their way through the story, because it's actually, even though it's an ABC book, it's actually a story. So there are two things going on. It's a story, and then it's in rhyme and rhythm. So there were a lot of things going on within it. So it wasn't just A is for apple and B is for bag.
Yeah.
No, it's A is for Adana, and my school is on break. It's for bag, packed with things I'm going to take. It's for camera, to take pictures of my stay.
Wow.
It's for Dad, who drives us all the way. E is for eagles flying high above the tree. F is for forest, sunlight shining through the leaves. You'll have to buy the book to get any more.
Yeah, there you go. And listeners, there was the preview of the audiobook version. Where can people get the book?
It's on Amazon. You can also reach me on my website, Fadipe.com.
Did you ever do an audiobook?
So for my second book, which is called Snowy Joy, that's got an audio. Yeah. It's also been turned into a stage play as well.
Well, I'm not ready to move on to the second book now, because we're talking about the ABC one, right?
Yes.
And you just performed it so beautifully there. It feels like
Thank you.
it should be recorded. I know you warmed up from choir practice.
That may be the clue.
Yeah. Sangeeta, did you find this when you were growing up as well? Like the representation in books of people who look like you as well.
Do you know what? I didn't think about it, so I guess that's where I want to go back. You know, Goldilocks and the Three Bears, that's something we grew up with in this country. That's our story. The Three Little Pigs, that's our story. And it quite saddens me that these stories, which are children's stories, they go to other countries and actually they might be locked off because of religious reasons, when actually they are nursery stories. So to learn that fact, that quite saddens me. But I guess what I wanted to ask is, with those types of books that they locked up, what did they do with them? Did they send them back? Did they keep them? Because these are British nursery stories, like children's stories.
I think for them, and if you think about what's happening with identity, they represent colonialism.
Yeah.
So these are the books to read. That's the person to be. And then we wonder why everyone wants to be here.
Deep.
Yeah, that was deep.
That's
even deeper for Sangeeta.
Oh my
I'm
God.
really,
Hang on.
even I'm lost.
I've got to think about that for 48 hours now. Also, a lot of these books have come over. They're obviously very well-meaning. You know, these have been donated by people, by charities, but they're just applying the funds. Kind of, they think they're doing it in a good way, but it's not actually what's appropriate. Oh, sorry, I'm still digesting that.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, genuinely, going back to next question, did I ever think growing up in the 70s, oh, look, there's a book I'm reading and I don't identify? I'll be honest with you, no, I didn't. Now, 40, 50 years on, would I want a book that my children can identify with? Definitely yes. Yeah, but back in them days, I would never have thought of looking at a book. It was just a norm. Well, of course, there's not going to be books of me. Why would there be?
Yeah.
There's not that many of us. So didn't really think about it. But now, as an adult, as a grandma, even at this stage, 3 generations down, I would be thinking about that.
So how did this book, and this book from Nigeria, end up getting big in America?
When I wrote it purely for the local community that I was working in. I wasn't thinking of being an author. I wasn't thinking of... my life was just about the little bit that I can do in my own corner. It's taken me a long time to get to where I am now, mentally. So we ended up spending quite a number of years out there. Obviously, I was enjoying the work that I was doing. It took us a number of years to get the right illustrator, and I thought it wasn't going to happen. So by the time we came back to England, I sent an email. This is in 2014. I sent an email to my publisher. I'd signed the contract in 2010. I said, let's just rip this thing off. I'm out of the country anyway.
That's such a long time. Where did you find the illustrator?
Well, I finally found one. Obviously, it was good.
From Nigeria?
Yes. So I haven't said my publisher is Cassava Republic Press. And that same year, they set up a branch in London. So when I said...
They're following you. They're like, we've got to get this book out.
Exactly,
let's follow her.
Exactly. So when I said, let's rip this thing out, it was an email. They said, guess what? We're in England now.
Yes.
And they want your book. And that's when the penny dropped that this is big. This is not about the communities that I was... It wasn't about the teachers that I'd written it for. It wasn't about the community that I'd written it for. This was big.
It was bigger than
This is global, right?
I can't handle this. And I still remember going about and, people would say to me, you're not holding that book like it belongs to you.
Why was that then?
Because I'd written it for Black African children,
right.
And I was suddenly in a space where where I felt the book didn't belong. So if you think about why I wrote it in the first place, it had nothing to do with being out of that space.
But did it not make you feel proud that it was actually out of that space into a bigger space? No?
No.
Okay.
I felt like a fish out of water.
Right.
Genuinely. I really did feel like this is not going to work.
And how do you feel now?
How do I feel now?
Because it's worked, right?
I've come a long way, but we're not there.
Okay.
We're not there. It's very out there in that space.
Yeah.
And even people that are from Nigeria, and because it touches on the ruralness of the country, there are some people who look at it and say, oh, we don't want to remember that about ourselves.
Okay.
So it's one of those books that probably my parents should have, one of those picture books that probably my mum should have read, my dad should have read. It's got this historical element to it.
So it feels a bit retro as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yes.
that lifestyle.
Yes, in terms of lifestyle. And what I say is that there's still millions of people that live that lifestyle, that haven't moved on from there. And there are also families who live in the city and go out intentionally to have that experience. You know, it's their pride to go into those kind of spaces to say, this is our heritage. This is what we used to, this is what our grandparents used to do. This is what our parents used to do. Let's go. Let's refresh.
Reconnecting is so important, I think, especially for a lot of people that lose their identity a bit.
Do you think you'll always do children's books?
So the question there is, would I ever write an adult
Another
book?
one, an adult book.
I will. I recently did a master's in creative writing and publishing.
Congratulations, you passed.
Hey.
Yay. What do you think?
Yeah, of course. I reckon distinction.
She wouldn't have told us otherwise, right?
I reckon you passed with distinction. Did you?
Why are you going? I did it.
Yeah, come on.
I did it.
We know. The universe loves you.
Yeah.
You know,
I tell you what. I tell a lie. I missed distinction by 1 mark.
That's okay. You was nearly there.
Hang on,
That's my little lie.
hang on. Top 50. Top 50.
Top 50.
Yeah. Who cares? Who cares?
In the USA, top 50. Who cares?
It's funny you should ask that question though, because I actually think this is going to be a doddle. I'm going to get through it. But hey, it's a completely different ball game. You know, you could know how to write, you could know how to publish, but the bits they throw in, would just do your head in. Plus the pace and the amount of literature that you've got. They do this. They do it intentionally. They're horrible.
You already had a BA in English literature.
Yes, I had.
As well before you started all this, so you're very well qualified.
Okay.
You got shares in the university.
Let's go there. Let's go there, because I have said, and I think this is so important. And I have said it in public before, that I haven't always been academic. I spent 7 years trying to get through just secondary school. I mean, here you've just got to move on next year. But in Nigeria, if you fail, you stay back.
Wow.
So I stayed back twice. I spent 7 years doing my secondary. And then it took me another 3 years to get my GCSEs. So I lost 5 years within the education system. And what I say to people is it doesn't matter how long as you're following your passion and as long as you want to put the work in. But for me, they were just I was immature. I wasn't focusing. There were things that were going on that had to do with my childhood and I'm missing my foster mother, and I just couldn't connect to the bits that were trying to come together to form me. Without her in my life, I just wasn't connecting. I just had so much emotional trauma with that split, without seeing her, and knowing that she was alive, and knowing that she was still alive, and I think what happened is she also had that pain. When I finally caught up with her, age 19, we went out for flower fair, and she met up with a friend, and the the sadness I heard in her voice when she told her friend, looked at her and said, I had her when she was 4 months, you know.
Yeah.
I could hear the sadness. And at that moment, I understood why I also had that sadness within me. It was shared.
How do you think you've channeled that into what you've done in your life?
So when I think about what I wrote and the space that I was in as a young child, I can bridge both. So I was in the rural parts of Kent, and all we did was go out to play and say bye-bye after breakfast, and come back for lunch, and then say bye-bye again, and then make sure we're back for dinner. And that's the kind of thing that I put through the stories that I write. Children just go and play.
It's independence.
Independence.
Yeah.
Freedom.
Yeah, it is the dream, isn't it? And that is not the urban childhood.
No, you get it. Yeah.
What I love is these organic creative journeys, right? People that haven't set out to do something, just things have happened to them. They're writing through necessity, through joy, right? And this is quite incredible. I don't know how old you would have been when this book was published, and you had no plans at all ever to be an author. And this book has just blown up around the world, become global. I don't even know why it's called Grandpa. What's it called in America?
So it's called A Visit to Grandad.
Yeah.
In the US. Here it's called a Fun ABC. And, a lot of people still say to me, they've got the same covers. People here still say to me, I don't know why you didn't call it A Visit to Grandad here.
Yeah.
Why didn't you?
I don't know. It wasn't my choice. I mean, there are some things that are taken away. Yeah. I mean, A Visit to Grandad was on the list, and I think my publisher felt for the UK, let's call it a Fun ABC.
Do you feel that had you been able to call it what you wanted to call it, do you feel that it would have been received differently in the UK? Because you said that it's blowing up in the US rather than here.
I think so. I think people can make a connection. So, grandparents can make connections to things directly. But for a Fun ABC could be, okay, the children need to have some fun with ABC. But when you've got a visit to Grandad,
it's specific.
So I think that's they were also exploring. There were young publishers back then. So we all make these mistakes.
And as this this organic process has happened to you, what advice have you got for anyone else that's writing for necessity or pleasure? I mean, you held on to this book for so long, and it's almost like the universe forced you to put it out by creating all these things happening.
True. And I think be real, just be real. And actually, because there's so much out there with AI and, artificial intelligence, there's the tendency to lose yourself. So if you're not writing things that are real for you, by the time you go into the next project, you can write one book for yourself. By the time you get into the next book, you're going to be writing about somebody else or something else. So there's got to be a pattern in the way that you write. That's got to be true to you. But if you rely on AI doesn't know you.
Yeah, AI hasn't had your experiences.
Exactly. And so people wouldn't get a feel of who you are as a writer. So much as, all these new technologies are good, you want to have a style, you want to have a personality, and people want to be able to say, oh, that sounds like that person.
So you have an event coming up soon, don't you? Tell us a little bit about how that came about.
The pandemic happened to us all. 3 years before then, I'd set up a writers group for children, and mainly because of this imposter syndrome that I felt when I said, I wasn't holding my book properly. I just felt there must be some writers that I can, partner with, that I can feel good about myself, that are probably in the same ship as myself. So went about, found a couple of people. I said, why don't we create a writers group? We set that up, and we had planned to do things together in public, and then the pandemic hit us. And so I thought, actually, went back to my roots and thought, one of the reasons why I started writing in the first place was because of my experience in Nigeria. So I wanted to know what was going on there and if anything had improved. I looked through the newspapers, and the person who inspired me to do what I'm doing now had set up a festival called the Akada Children's Book Festival. And she was calling 40 authors from across the country to do a festival together. She started the festival about 6 years ago. But I looked her up and found an article in The Guardian in which she had said that when she became a mother, she found no picture books for herself, but she came across a book by Sade Fadipe. And that inspired me to write. And this person now engages over 200 authors every year, does massive festivals in Nigeria.
So it's almost, she read your book, set up the festival,
Set up a
and then it's
publishing
gone
house.
all round circle where you're now watching the model that she's done by reading your book, but now you want to do that model.
Yeah. Well, in a way, she inspired, just like I inspired her.
Absolutely.
She inspires me.
Oh, how amazing.
So the festival, so we started pandemic. So authors, what are you doing? Authors in Nigeria, how many children's books exist in Nigeria at the moment? Because I had left. I didn't know what was going on. And so I got all these people, I'm an author. They formed an association. And I thought, actually, I don't know you people. Why don't we go into Zoom, have a meeting, get to chat? Do you mind if I record what we're saying? I recorded, and I thought I had interviewed 10 people. And I thought, this is so good. So good. There's so much talent here. I thought, why don't we have one evening where we all pop onto Zoom, invite children and tell them about yourselves.
Amazing.
And that's what we did. One evening, we had 13 authors, and they did their thing. Trailers, readings, storytellings. They did so much on that evening. And we had about 100 children log on.
And what was this called?
It was called the Children and Authors Literary Fanfare and Events.
Wow. Have you got a short name for it?
Calf?
Calf.
You used to call it Calf.
I used to call it, I'll be honest. Okay, so when I first met Sade and I saw Calf, I used to call it Calfie. So I used to go, right, Calfie, when's your Calfie happening? And then Sade used to always correct me, but yeah, it's Calf.
So how many calves have you had now?
This would be the 4th.
Yeah, and is it growing? You're getting more
It is
people?
growing. I mean, we'd done the onlines for 2 years, and then last year, for the very first time, we had an in-person at Chelmsford Museum.
Amazing.
You were there.
Mark, do you?
So
Yes.
this was a live event, and
It was a live event.
and you had some people from Nigeria zooming in, did you?
So we didn't Zoom. So we had the online one the night before, the evening before, and then came live to the live show. And really, it was because of the Essex Book Festival. So I'm one of the trustees, and Peter Donaldson and Roz Green were my biggest supporters. And they said, why don't you have a live one? Peter said, why don't you have a live event? And then Mark heard it and said, yes, come here, Peter. So with Peter, it was like coaches. And Mark said, we've got the museum, we've got the better space.
Hang on. Yeah, what? Sorry, I just have to say we're talking about people's names here. This is Mark Diaz. Hello, Mark Diaz. Welcome to your what's this? Your 12th mention now in 2 episodes. This is episode 11. I know he likes to listen to it on the train on the way back from work. So
Does he?
yeah, hi Mark. Hope your train journey's going well. So you did this live event. What happened at the live event?
So the challenge had to do with funding. So here was me looking for Black authors in Essex. And obviously, I had friends. No one in my writing group was actually based in Essex. So
Yeah.
I had to say, hey, you're in Manchester, you're in Berkshire, you're in Luton, you're in Kent. Can you come to Chelmsford?
Can you move to Essex?
Just for one night only.
Yeah.
For free. I've got no money. Can you come? Will you do it? Hey. And they said, you know what? We've been looking forward to doing something for at least 4 years now. We will come. We know you're penniless. We will come. Meanwhile, I had applied to the Arts Council, and at some point I just got frustrated. So when
it takes longer than writing a book applying to the Arts Council, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah, it does. At some point, I said, right, it's not going to happen. So I sent Roz an email to say, I give up. She said, why? And I said, okay, I'll do it then.
Amazing.
And how many kids did you get along?
There were more adults than children the first time round, which we need to correct this time around. Altogether, the foot flow into the museum that day was 328. Now, how many people stopped by and came into our storytelling sessions? Because it would flow, they would come by, they might come for one story, go into the other parts of the museum. So it's a bit hard to tell, but we're going to keep a better track with Sangeeta.
And were you, did you perform the ABC? Yeah?
I performed the ABC.
Oh my God, I can't believe I've missed this. You're going to do it again now, aren't you?
Yes.
When's this next event?
It's on the 26th of October.
So it's not long to wait.
No.
This is amazing. No. And people can come to Chelmsford Museum.
People can come. It's a free event. They may need to register, they may not. So if there are people who normally go into the museum, they wouldn't need to register. I think one of the reasons why we may have to get people to register if they wanted to do some of the amazing workshops that we've got planned. We've got Patty. Patty is amazing. She uses the Victorian kitchen. She does a utensil display and a spice workshop.
Hang on, this is crazy. This needs a whole another podcast as well.
And then we've got, starting off, we've got Shane Ibs.
And know Shane.
Yeah, you got Shane Ibs. It's a whole package for Chelmsford.
And how is Sangeeta involved? Because I see like you're making a lot of eye contact here.
What am I doing? Am I taxiing that night?
No,
I think I'm at the door.
She's one of our hosts. She's one of our hosts.
Amazing. So you're going to bring on different authors and introduce people.
Yes.
Well, Sade's got to teach me. Yes.
We've got a lady to teach you. Dee will teach you.
Amazing.
Dee is amazing.
And look at this. Like Sangeeta hadn't even been on a microphone until about like 6 months ago. Now look at you. You're hosting the book festival.
I know. What next?
And we're going to do that. We're going to do a live podcast in Chelmsford Theatre. This magic's happened.
This is amazing. You've done really well with Calf, I would say. It's a really good concept. I think.
Have I told you, though, that not only are we in Chelmsford, we're also in Colchester.
Oh, amazing.
And in Manchester. The amazingly huge and majestic Museum of Manchester.
No, wait. So you can replicate this, like this sort of community project all around the country. So you are global, Sade, aren't you? Because you create these little things, and they just grow tentacles and get bigger and bigger. And
it was absolutely amazing. I mean, if I just chip in here because I know a little bit about it. So last year, when we had all those authors from all those different areas, actually it was the Manchester author that said, "You know what, we love what you did here. Can you bring that back?" Isn't it? And that's
that was Carol. That was Carol Nelson.
You're amazing, and as Nick said, you're getting all around the country, let alone the world. That's phenomenal.
what are your future projects? What have you got coming up?
So the main reason why I do the Calf is to make sure that children not only see themselves represented in literature, but also encourage families of all races to engage with literature.
Yeah.
So you could get a book where there's a black child as a main character from school, from the library, and that would be going back to school and be going back to the library. But when your parents buy you a book where there's a black child or a white child or a brown child, and that book belongs to you in your home, that's a message that you're putting across to your child that we are one.
Yes. And I remember when my kids were born and we got a book start, and, we got some free books in a bag. I remember, What Does Teddy Do All Day? I've read it many times. I could probably quote that one for you. But so you're working, you're trying to get more and more diversity in the books in people's homes.
Into people's homes, and we hope to take this into different museums, because museums are one of our key places to work with across the country. Whoever invites us or whoever opens the doors to us, we would be there. But the key is that culture is important, and it's important that all children learn about all cultures.
I think so, and it's even really important that kids have books as well, because I know Book Start was started because so many children did not have a single book, which is, it's unbelievable when you think probably like in my house I've got hundreds of books for my kids, but it's sad that it's a luxury for some people as well, even before they think about the representation.
Yeah, it's so true.
And just finally, I want to, to bring this full circle. Have you been back to the schools that you started the ABC from? Those Nigerian schools where you thought they need a book like this, and have you seen the kids read it, or do you get feedback from them?
What I get is feedback. I haven't been back into those spaces, but what I get is feedback that these are the books that we need, and I think since I've left, actually, so many more people, so many more authors have evolved that they probably have forgotten about me now. Which, as long as they get in the context that they need, it doesn't really matter. As long as they see themselves in literature and their confidence, their self-esteem is boosted by the things that they read. So it's a balance, really. They'll have all kinds of books, whether it's books from here, books from there, but they must have their own books where they see themselves as well.
I love how Sade's like, my work here is done. Nigeria is fixed.
Yeah,
I'm going to move on to the next, the next thing.
The Cassava Book Festival is amazing.
Yeah.
And I know of another lady who's in the same group as us, who's also developed her own festival in another region, the eastern region of Nigeria. So these things are popping up. Literature is becoming a big thing, but we're still struggling in terms of the rate of production, because people, foreign books are still cheaper in those places.
So you got to get the Nigerian printing scene going now.
Should have spoken to our previous guest
I know,
today.
exactly. So inspirational, and it's fascinating to find out your stories. And I think, honestly, like about 2 days, in 2 days' time, I'm going to think about that immigration thing you're talking about. And I mean, God, we need to talk about that another time as well.
Another podcast.
So thank you very much for Sade for coming on and speaking to us. It's been great to have you. And thanks for singing at the start as well.
Beautiful energy.
I've got to think of a song to sing.
Sing us out.
Bye-bye.
No, we can't, because honestly, we will get done for copyright. So let me
Not unless you make your own one.
Let me take us out here anyway. So thank you very much to NGDA for supporting this. Thank you so much to City Sound for letting us use their space. As always, subscribe to us on Instagram, r.u.creative.podcast, and send us questions. No one's ever sent us a question or suggested a guest or anything like that. A few people have suggested themselves. Thank you very much. But honestly, tag us in if you see someone or you think there's someone we should talk to. So yeah. Oh, and don't forget about Essex Podcast Festival on September the 28th, which is Are You Creative Live with Andy Pilgrim Stuntman, which is going to be amazing. And Adele's co-hosting because Sangeeta can't make it. Oh, spoiler alert! I shouldn't have said that. But there we go. So Sade, thanks so much for coming in.
It's been a pleasure.
And you're going to sing us out. Can you do us an Are You Creative jingle?
Yes. Are you a creative jingle? Boom, 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 boom. Are you a creative jingle?
No. You got it wrong because it's
A jingle is a
yeah. A jingle is just something like, "Are you creative?"
Yeah.
Okay,
So
bye.
between the two of you.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Good night. Thank you so much.